She was the most beautiful woman in all of Punjab, and when their eyes met for the first time, she knew her life would never be the same again. Heer stood frozen on the boat, her stick raised to strike the stranger who dared sleep on her bed. But the moment he opened his eyes, something shifted in the universe. His eyes were like the river Chenab itself, deep, mysterious, and impossible to look away from. And Heer, the daughter of the most powerful chief in Jung, felt her anger dissolve like morning mist. She didn't know it yet, but this moment would define her entire existence. This handsome stranger with the flute under his arm would become her reason to live, her reason to fight, and ultimately, her reason to die. Family, welcome back to When Hearts Collide, where we bring you emotional stories of love that will stay with you forever. Because in truth, love and death cannot be escaped. No one can say when, how, or where. It's never too early or too late. If you're new to this channel, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification button right now so you don't miss what happens next. And if you're one of our returning viewers, thank you so much. We appreciate you. Now, stay with us to the end of this story. Leave a comment with your thoughts and like this video. Let's continue. To understand how Heer and Ranjha's paths crossed, we must go back to where it all began. To a village called Takht Hazar, nestled on the banks of the mighty Chenab River in Punjab. Takht Hazara was paradise on earth. Streams flowed through green gardens, and the air smelled of jasmine and earth after rain. It was the ancestral home of the Ranjha clan, proud Jat landowners who lived in comfort and dignity. Their young men were known for their beauty and pride. They wore earrings in their ears and fine shawls over their shoulders. They walked with the confidence of people who had never known hardship. Mauju Chowdhury was the chief landowner of Takht Hazara. He was a respected man, loved by his community and feared by his enemies. He had 8 sons and 2 daughters, and among all his children, his youngest son was his favorite. This boy's name was Dido, but everyone called him by his family name, Ranjha. Ranjha was different from his brothers. While they toiled in the fields from dawn to dusk, breaking their backs under the hot Punjab sun, Ranjha spent his days playing the flute. His father loved him so much that he never forced him to work. "Let the boy play his music," Mauju would say whenever his other sons complained. "There's more to life than farming. His soul speaks through that flute." And what music it was! When Ranjha played his flute, they said birds stopped flying to listen. Women paused their chores and stood mesmerized, tears streaming down their faces without knowing why. Even the buffaloes in the fields would grow still, as if the melody spoke to their souls. His music was not just sound, it was emotion made audible. It was longing and love, and the deep ache of the human heart given voice. But Ranjha's brothers hated him for this special treatment. "He does nothing while we break our backs," they complained to each other in hushed, bitter voices. "Father spoils him rotten. We work like animals, and he plays his flute like a prince." Their wives were even worse. "Look at him," they would sneer when Ranjha walked by. "He wears earrings like a woman. He oils his hair with curds and stares at himself in a mirror on his thumb. What kind of man is this? He's useless, a burden on this family." Ranjha heard their whispers but ignored them. He had his flute, he had his father's love, and he had the freedom to dream. That was enough. He didn't need their approval. He didn't need their understanding. His music was his world, and in that world, he was king. But then came the night that changed everything. They called it the Night of Nights, the night when death visited Takht Hazara, the night when Mauju Chaudhry breathed his last. Ranjha was by his father's side when the old man took his final breath. The room was dark, lit only by a single oil lamp that flickered like a dying star. Mauju's hand, once strong enough to plow fields and command armies, now trembled weakly as it gripped his youngest son's fingers. "My son," Mauju whispered, his voice barely audible. "Promise me something." "Anything, father," Ranjha said through his tears. "Anything at all. Promise me you will find your purpose. Promise me you will not waste this gift the heavens have given you. And promise me—" Mauju paused, gathering the last of his strength. "Promise me you will find love, real love, the kind that makes life worth living." "I promise, father," Ranjha said, his voice breaking. "I promise." Mauju smiled weakly. "You were always my favorite," he whispered. "Not because you were the youngest, but because you understood what your brothers never could, that life is not about how much land you own or how much money you make. It's about beauty. It's about love. It's about the song in your soul." And with those words, Mauju Chaudhry closed his eyes forever. After Mauju's death, everything changed. The house that had once been filled with music and laughter became cold and hostile. Ranjha's brothers, freed from their father's watchful eye, finally unleashed the resentment they had been holding back for years. They gathered to divide the inheritance, and their hatred for Ranjha found its voice. "You want your share?" the eldest brother laughed cruelly. "Fine, take the barren land by the river, the land where nothing grows, the land that's good for nothing but flooding." Ranjha's heart shattered. "But father said we would divide everything equally. Father said—" "Father is dead," another brother cut in coldly, "and you're nothing but a burden, a useless dreamer who can't even hold a plow. You've never worked a day in your life. Why should you get good land?" "I am your brother," Ranjha pleaded. "Our father's blood runs in my veins just as it runs in yours." "You are no brother of ours," the eldest said. "You are a parasite, and parasites deserve nothing." That night, Ranjha went to sleep hungry. His brothers' wives had always served him last, giving him the smallest portions, the coldest food. But now they refused to serve him at all. "No food for those who don't work," they said, slamming the kitchen door in his face. "Go play your flute. Maybe it will fill your stomach." Ranjha sat outside under the stars, his stomach empty, but his heart even emptier. The same stars he used to watch with his father now seemed cold and distant. He thought about his father's last words, "Find your purpose, find love." "What purpose can I find here?" he whispered to the night sky. "What love can grow in a house filled with such hatred?" He looked at the flute in his hands, the same flute his father had given him when he was a child. "This is your voice," his father had said. "This is how you will speak to the world." "I cannot stay here," Ranjha finally decided. "There is nothing left for me in Takht Hazara. My father is gone. My brothers despise me. This is no longer my home." Before dawn, while the rest of the house still slept, Ranjha rose. He took nothing with him except his flute and the clothes on his back. He didn't say goodbye to his brothers. He didn't leave a note. He simply walked away from the only home he had ever known. As the first rays of sunlight touched the rooftops of Takht Hazara,
Ranjha was already miles away, walking toward an unknown destiny. He didn't know where he was going. He only knew he was searching for something, someone.
His heart told him that his life's purpose was waiting for him somewhere beyond the horizon. The river would guide him. The music in his heart would lead him. And fate, that mysterious force that none can escape, was already weaving its thread. Ranjha walked for days. His feet bled from the rough roads. His stomach growled with hunger. The sun burned his skin, and the nights chilled him to the bone. But still he walked, playing his flute to ease the loneliness, sleeping under trees when exhaustion overtook him, drinking from streams and begging for scraps of food from kind strangers. "Where are you going, young man?" people would ask. "I don't know," Ranjha would answer. "But I know I haven't arrived yet." One evening, as the sun painted the sky in shades of orange and purple, he reached a traveler's inn just as the evening bells echoed through the air. Hungry and cold, he thought he might find shelter there. He sat on the steps and began to play his flute. Within minutes, something magical happened. People came from everywhere. Men left their shops. Women came out of their homes. Children stopped their games, all of them drawn by the haunting melody, but seemed to speak of love and loss and longing. "Who is this young man?" they whispered to each other. "He plays like a dream, like someone who has seen both heaven and hell." The crowd grew larger and larger. Some people cried without knowing why. Others stood with their eyes closed, letting the music wash over them like a warm rain. But not everyone was pleased. The caretaker of the inn, a stern old man with a long beard and cold eyes, pushed through the crowd. "Stop that noise," he shouted, his face red with anger. "This is a place of rest, not a music hall. Such sounds disturb the peace of this place." Ranjha stopped playing and looked at the old man with calm, sad eyes. "I seek only shelter for the night, respected one, a roof over my head, and perhaps a morsel of food. Is that not what such places are for? To help those in need?" The old man's eyes narrowed. "Wanderers like you should find shelter elsewhere. You, with your earrings and your oiled hair, you look like trouble." Ranjha did not flinch. Instead, he smiled sadly. "Old man, you judge me without knowing me. You see my appearance, but not my heart. I have known wealthy men whose souls were empty, and poor farmers whose hearts were full of gold." The crowd murmured in approval. Some even laughed at the caretaker's expense. The old man's face grew redder, but he could see that the crowd was on Ranjha's side. "Fine," he grumbled. "Stay the night, but be gone by morning." Ranjha slept at the inn that night, but his sleep was troubled by dreams. Dreams of a woman with eyes like stars, a woman whose face he had never seen, but somehow knew her better than his own reflection. He woke before dawn with her name on his lips, though he did not yet know what it was. By early morning, Ranjha was gone, continuing his journey toward the destiny that awaited him. At the third watch of the day, when the sun began its descent toward the western horizon, Ranjha reached the banks of the mighty Chenab River. The sight took his breath away. The river stretched before him like a ribbon of silver, its waters reflecting the golden light of the afternoon sun. On the opposite bank he could see a beautiful town, houses with whitewashed walls, towers and rooftops reaching toward the sky, the smoke of cooking fires rising gently into the air. "What is that place?" he asked a passing traveler.
That is Jang, the man replied, home of the Sial clan, one of the most powerful families in Punjab. Their chief, Chuchak, rules this entire region. Something stirred in Ranjha's heart. Something told him that his journey was about to end, that his purpose was waiting for him across that river. Many travelers waited at the ferry, hoping to cross before nightfall. Ranjha approached the boatman, a rough-looking man named Ludden, who had the weathered face of someone who had spent his entire life on the water. "Please," Ranjha said, "take me across the river."
Ludden looked at Ranjha's empty hands, his worn clothes, his bare feet. "You have no money?" "I have nothing," Ranjha admitted. "I left my home with only my flute and my faith. But I will work for my passage. I will do whatever you need." Ludden laughed harshly. "I need money, not promises. No money, no crossing. Those are the rules." Ranjha begged. He pleaded. He offered to work on the boat, to help load and unload cargo, to do anything Ludden needed. But the boatman was unmoved. "Go away," Ludden said, turning his back. "You're wasting my time." Desperate, Ranjha sat down on the riverbank. He had come so far. He couldn't let a river stop him now. He pulled out his flute and began to play. The melody that emerged was unlike anything he had ever played before. It was the song of his entire journey, the pain of losing his father, the cruelty of his brothers, the loneliness of the road, but also the hope in his heart, the faith that something beautiful awaited him, the promise of love. One by one, people stopped what they were doing to listen. Travelers forgot they were waiting. Merchants abandoned their goods. Even Ludden's wives, who were sitting in the boat preparing the evening meal, came to the edge of the vessel to hear.
"Husband," one of them called out, tears streaming down her face, "let the boy come. Listen to his music. It's like nothing I've ever heard." "His songs have cast a spell over our hearts," another wife agreed. "Please let him cross." Ludan looked at his wives, then at the crowd that had gathered. Everyone was staring at Ranjha with wonder in their eyes. Even Ludan himself had to admit that something about this young man was special. "Fine," he grumbled. "Get in, but don't think this means I've gone soft." Ranjha climbed into the boat. He was so exhausted from his long journey that his legs trembled beneath him. "Is there somewhere I can rest?" he asked. Ludan's wives pointed to a beautiful bed at the back of the boat. It was no ordinary bed. It was decorated with silk curtains of deep red and gold, fine cushions embroidered with flowers, and sheets that looked softer than clouds. "You can rest there," they said, their voices hushed. "But be warned." "Warned of what?" Ranjha asked.
The wives exchanged nervous glances. "That bed belongs to Heer," one whispered, "the daughter of Chuchak, chief of the Sial tribe. She is the most beautiful woman in all of Punjab. Her face is like the full moon. Her eyes are like precious gems. Men have gone mad just looking at her. But her temper," another wife added, "is as fierce as a storm. She fears no one, not even her father, if she finds you on her bed." "What?" Ranjha asked, but Ranjha was too tired to care. His journey had been long, and his body was broken with exhaustion. He lay down on the silk cushions, placed his beloved flute beside him, and within moments he was fast asleep. In his dreams, he saw her again, the woman with eyes like stars, but this time her face was becoming clearer. This time he could almost see her.
When Heer heard that a stranger was sleeping on her bed, she was furious beyond words. How dare someone defile her private space? How dare Luden allow such a thing to happen? She gathered her friends, a group of young women who were just as spirited as she was, grabbed her stick, and marched toward the boat like a warrior queen going to battle. "Come," she commanded her friends. "Today someone will learn never to cross here again." The girls followed their mistress, matching her angry stride. They knew Heer well. They knew that when she was angry, nothing and no one could calm her down. They pitied whoever had dared to sleep on her bed. Heer reached the boat and immediately began shouting, "Luden, you fool! How dare you let someone defile my bed? Do you not know who I am? Do you not fear me?"
Poor Luden fell to his knees, trembling with fear. "Please, my lady, have mercy. I didn't invite him. He came on his own. The songs he sings have bewitched us all. My own wives insisted I let him on board." "Songs?" Heer laughed bitterly. "You let a common musician sleep on my bed because of songs? I should have you whipped for this. Please, my lady, spare me. See for yourself. He is no ordinary man. There is something about him." But Heer was not listening. She jumped onto the boat, her friends right behind her. They pushed aside Luden's protesting wives and made their way to the silk-curtained bed where the intruder lay. "Wake him," Heer commanded, raising her stick. "I want to see the face of the fool who dared to disrespect me." One of her friends reached out and threw back the curtains. And then time stopped. Ranjha lay there with his eyes closed, his long dark hair spread across the pillow like a river of silk. His face was more beautiful than any man Heer had ever seen. His lips were slightly parted, as if he were in the middle of a sweet dream. His chest rose and fell gently with each breath. Heer's stick froze in midair. Her heart, which had been racing with anger, suddenly began racing with something else entirely, something she had never felt before, something that terrified and thrilled her at the same time.
Then Ranjha opened his eyes. Their gazes locked. Gray met brown. Fire met calm. Thunder met lightning. And in that single eternal moment, both of them knew that their lives had changed forever. The world around them seemed to disappear. The sounds of the river, the chatter of the people, the cries of the birds, everything faded into silence. There was only this, only them, only this connection that felt as old as time itself. "Who are you?" Heer's voice came out as barely a whisper. All the fury had drained from it. All the anger had melted away like snow under the spring sun. Ranjha looked at her face like the full moon, at her lips like red rubies, at her eyes that sparkled like precious gems, and he knew that this was her, the woman from his dreams, the woman he had been searching for without even knowing it. "I am Ranjha," he said softly, his voice like honey, "and I have been looking for you my whole life." Heer lowered her stick. Her friends stared at her in shock. They had never seen their fierce mistress look so vulnerable, so lost, so found. "I don't even know you," Heer said, but her voice trembled. "Your soul knows mine," Ranjha replied, "and mine knows yours. We have been connected since before we were born. I felt it the moment I saw this river. I felt it the moment I heard about this place. I knew my destiny was waiting here." Heer should have laughed at him. She should have called him a madman and beaten him with her stick and thrown him into the river. That's what the old Heer would have done. But the old Heer was gone. In her place stood a woman who had just discovered the purpose of her existence. "Tell me about yourself," she said. sitting down beside him on the bed. "Tell me everything." They talked for hours as the boat drifted lazily on the river. Ranjha told Heer about his father's death, his brother's cruelty, the long, lonely journey that had brought him here. Heer listened with tears in her eyes, her heart breaking for the man who had suffered so much. "How could they treat you that way?" she whispered. "You are so kind, so gentle, so beautiful." "Beauty counts for nothing when you have no money and no power," Ranjha said bitterly. "My brothers saw me as a burden, a mouth to feed. They never understood that some things are more important than land and gold." "What things?"
Music, love, the poetry of existence. Ranjha took Heer's hand in his. "You." Heer's heart fluttered. No one had ever spoken to her this way. Men had praised her beauty before. Men had tried to win her favor with gifts and promises. But no one had ever looked at her the way Ranjha did, like she was the most precious thing in the universe. "Stay," she said when he finished his story. "Stay here in Jang. I will convince my father to give you a job." "What kind of job?" Ranjha asked. Heer smiled mischievously. "You will tend our cattle, our buffaloes. You will take them to graze by the river every day." "But I know nothing about tending cattle," Ranjha protested. "Then you will learn." Heer's eyes sparkled with something more than mischief now, something deeper. "And every day I will come to bring you food. We will meet in the forest by the river. We will talk. We will laugh. We will—" She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Ranjha lifted her hand to his lips and kissed it gently. "I will stay," he whispered. "For you I would do anything. For you I would move mountains and drain oceans. For you I would give my very life." When Heer brought Ranjha home, her father, Chuchak, was skeptical. "This boy looks too delicate for hard labor," he said, examining Ranjha from head to toe. "Look at his soft hands, his oiled hair, his fair complexion. He looks more like a rich man's son than a herder." "Trust me, father," Heer said with all the confidence in the world. "He's perfect for the job. He may look soft, but he has a strong heart. And he plays the flute. The buffaloes will love him." Chuchak looked at his daughter suspiciously. Heer had never shown interest in the family's cattle before. Why was she suddenly so invested in hiring a herder? But Chuchak loved his daughter more than anything in the world. She was his only daughter, the light of his eyes, and he had never been able to deny her anything. "Fine," he said finally. "He can have the job. But if the cattle suffer, he goes." And so began the most beautiful chapter in both their lives. Every morning, Ranjha would take the cattle to the forest that lay along the banks of the Chenab River. The forest was called the Bella, and it was a paradise of green. Tall trees provided shade from the hot sun. The river sang its eternal song as it flowed past. Birds called to each other from the branches. And every day, without fail, Heer would come to meet him. She would bring him churi, a sweet mixture of crumbled bread and sugar, lovingly prepared with her own hands. She would sit beside him while he played his flute, her head resting on his shoulder, her eyes closed in bliss.
"Play me a song about love," she would say, and Ranjha would play. He would pour all his feelings into the music, his love for her, his gratitude for finding her, his fear of ever losing her. And Heer would listen, tears streaming down her face, her heart overflowing with emotions she didn't have words for. After the music, they would talk. They would share their dreams and fears. They would make plans for the future, though they both knew their love was forbidden. In another life, Heer said one day, we would be married by now. We would have a house by the river, children playing in the garden. We would grow old together. Why can't we have that in this life? Ranjha asked. Heer's face grew sad. Because I am the daughter of a chief, and you are a herder. In the eyes of society, we are not equals. My family would never allow it. Then we will change their eyes, Ranjha said fiercely. We will make them see that love matters more than status, that the heart knows no caste or class. You are a dreamer, Heer said, but she was smiling. And you are my dream, Ranjha replied. Their love grew deeper with each passing day. 12 years they spent like this, 12 years of stolen moments and secret meetings, 12 years of joy that they had to hide from the world.
But in a land of gossip and jealousy, where eyes are always watching and tongues are always wagging, secrets never stay hidden forever. There was a man in Jong named Kaido. He was Heer's uncle, her father's younger brother, but he was nothing like Chuchak. Where Chuchak was kind and generous, Kaido was bitter and mean-spirited. Where Chuchak saw the best in people, Kaido saw only opportunities for malice. Kaido had lived a hard life, much of it his own fault. He walked with a limp, the result of an accident in his youth. He had never married because no woman would have him. He had no children, no legacy, no purpose, except to watch others live the life he had been denied. The happiness of others was like poison to Kaido. When he saw lovers walking together, his heart would burn with envy. When he heard children laughing, he wanted to silence them. Other people's joy made him physically sick. And Heer's joy was the worst of all. She was so beautiful, so beloved, so full of life. Everything came easy to her. Everything Kaido had never had. When he started noticing how Heer disappeared for hours every day, how she always carried food to the forest,
How she smiled in a way she never smiled before, Kaido grew suspicious. Something is going on, he muttered to himself, and I will find out what. He started following her, spying on her, hiding behind trees and bushes, watching her every move, until one day he saw everything. Heer and Ranjha sitting together in the forest, Heer feeding Ranjha with her own hands, the two of them laughing and whispering like they were the only people in the world. And then, the worst of all, Heer resting her head on Ranjha's shoulder while he played his flute. Kaido's heart filled with a dark, twisted joy. Now I have you, he whispered. Now you will pay for all your happiness. He rushed back to the village, his limp forgotten in his excitement. He found Chuchak in the main hall and fell at his brother's feet. "Brother," he cried, making his voice as distressed as possible, "I bring terrible news. Your daughter has brought shame upon your family." Chuchak went pale. "What are you talking about?" "Heer, your precious Heer. She has been meeting the herder in the forest. They eat together, they laugh together. Who knows what else they do?" The whole village is talking about it. Our family's honor is ruined. At first, Chuchak refused to believe it. Not his Heer, not his innocent daughter. But Kaido was persistent. He brought others who had seen them together. He painted picture after picture of their secret meetings until Chuchak had no choice but to accept the truth. When Heer's mother Malki heard the news, she was furious beyond words. "This cannot continue,"
she said, her voice shaking with anger. "We must end this immediately. Do you understand what this will do to our reputation? Do you understand that no respectable family will ever marry their son to a girl with such a scandal?" They summoned Heer and confronted her. "Is it true?" Chuchak asked, his voice heavy with disappointment. "Have you been meeting the herder in secret?" Heer looked at her father with clear, defiant eyes. "Yes, father, it is true. I love him." The room fell silent. To admit such a thing so openly, so boldly, was unheard of. Women were supposed to be modest, to deny, to protect their honor even when the truth was plain as day.
But Heer was not like other women. She had never been like other women. "I love him," she repeated, "and he loves me. We have done nothing wrong except follow our hearts." "Done nothing wrong?" Malky shrieked. "You have destroyed us. Do you think love matters when honor is at stake?" They called a meeting with the village elder, a respected old man who settled disputes and gave guidance to families in conflict. The elder was a man with a long white beard and wise eyes, but even his wisdom had limits. "My child," he said to Heer, "you are from a noble family. You are the daughter of a chief. Good girls from noble families keep their gaze lowered. They stay home and help their mothers. They don't run around the forest with servants. What will people say?" Heer looked at the elder without flinching. "You cannot wean an addict away from the drug," she said, "and I am addicted to Ranjha. My love for him is not a mistake. It is a gift from fate. Destiny put this love in my heart, and no man can take it out." The elder was shocked by her boldness. "This is improper. You must forget this man at once." "I cannot," Heer said.
True love is like a mark that a hot iron burns onto the skin. It never fades. It never disappears. My love for Ranjha is written in my destiny by the stars themselves. Who are you to change what fate has written? The elder threatened her with consequences. He spoke of shame and ruin. Her parents begged and pleaded. Her mother cried. Her father paced the room in despair. But Heer would not budge. Her love was stronger than fear. Her heart was mightier than threats. Finally, seeing that nothing would change her mind, her family made a terrible decision. If Heer wouldn't forget Ranjha willingly, they would force her to. They would marry her to someone else, someone far away, so she would never see Ranjha again. They chose Saida Kara, a wealthy man from a distant village called Rangpur. He was older than Heer by many years, neither handsome nor kind, but he came from a powerful family with lots of land and influence. He would be a good match on paper. He would restore the family's honor. When Heer heard the news, her world collapsed like a house of cards in a storm. "No," she cried, falling to her knees. "You cannot do this to me. You cannot force me to marry a stranger."
"It's for your own good," her mother said coldly. "You will forget that herder soon enough. Time heals all wounds." "I will never forget Ranjha," Heer screamed. "My union with him was already written in the stars, witnessed by the heavens themselves. You cannot marry me to another man. It is wrong. It goes against everything love stands for." But her protests fell on deaf ears. The wedding was arranged, the date was set, and Ranjha, when he heard, was forbidden from coming anywhere near Heer. "If you try to see her," Chuchak warned him, "I will have you killed." On the wedding day, Heer was dressed in bridal clothes against her will. They put heavy gold jewelry on her neck and arms, jewelry she did not want. They painted elaborate henna designs on her hands,
hands that trembled with grief. They covered her face with a veil so no one could see her tears. Her friends, the same girls who had accompanied her to the boat all those years ago, now wept as they prepared her for a marriage she did not want. "Be strong," they whispered. "Fate will find a way." But Heer felt no strength. She felt only despair. The man she loved was being torn from her forever, and there was nothing she could do about it.
When the priest asked if she accepted Saida Khaira as her husband, Heer surprised everyone by speaking up. Her voice rang out clear and strong through the wedding hall. "I am already promised to another," she said. "My heart belongs to Ranjha. My soul was joined to his the moment our eyes first met. What you are doing today is against the laws of love. You are not performing a sacred ceremony. You are committing a great injustice." The guests gasped. Such words from a bride were unheard of. The priest hesitated, unsure how to proceed, but Kaido stepped forward. "She is merely nervous," he said smoothly. "Continue with the ceremony. She doesn't know what she's saying." The priest, under pressure from the family, completed the marriage ceremony, and Heer, weeping uncontrollably, was sent to Rangpur with a husband she would never love. As the wedding procession carried her away from Jang, Heer looked back one last time, and there, standing on a distant hill, she saw him, Ranjha, watching her go with tears streaming down his face.
Watching her go with tears streaming down his face. Their eyes met across the distance. 1,000 words passed between them without a sound. "I love you. I will always love you. I will find you again." And then she was gone. When Ranjha saw Heer being carried away, something inside him died. The woman he loved, the reason for his existence, had been stolen from him by cruel fate and crueler people. He tried to follow the procession, but guards stopped him. He called out her name, but his voice was lost in the wedding drums and celebration. He collapsed on the ground, his body shaking with sobs. For days after, Ranjha wandered the forests where they used to meet. He played his flute, but the music sounded hollow now, like an echo of what it used to be. He didn't eat. He didn't sleep. He simply existed, a shell of the man he used to be. "She is gone," he would whisper to the trees that had witnessed their love. "And without her, I am nothing." One day, in his wanderings, he heard about a place called Tilajogyan, the hill of the wanderers. It was high in the mountains, far from civilization. It was where people went when they had given up on the world, where broken hearts went to find peace, or to die.
At Tilajogyan lived an old sage named Goraknath, a legendary spiritual master. He was the founder of the wandering ascetics, men who gave up all worldly possessions and roamed the land seeking wisdom. He was said to have great powers. Perhaps, Ranjha thought, he could help end this unbearable pain. The journey to Tilajogyan was long and treacherous. Ranjha climbed mountains and crossed valleys. He walked through storms and under burning sun. But physical pain meant nothing to him now. His heart was already destroyed. When he finally reached the sacred hill, he found Goraknath sitting in meditation under an ancient tree. The old master had long white hair, a beard that touched the ground, and eyes that seemed to see through time itself. Ranjha fell at his feet. "Please," he begged, "make me one of your followers. Help me renounce this cruel world that has taken everything from me." Goraknath opened his eyes and looked at Ranjha. For a long moment he was silent. Then he shook his head. "You are no ascetic," he said, his voice deep and knowing. "I can see in your eyes that you still love someone deeply. Your heart is not ready to let go. My followers give up all earthly attachments, but your attachment is still alive." "Then help me kill it," Ranjha pleaded. "Help me forget her."
True love cannot be killed or forgotten, Goraknath said wisely. It can only be transformed. And your love, young man, is not finished. It has more chapters to write. Ranjha didn't understand. He only knew that he needed something to numb the pain, something to give him purpose when all purpose seemed lost. In his desperation, Ranjha resorted to a trick. One night, while the ascetic slept, he crept into Goraknath's tent and stole the master's sacred conch. This conch was used to call all the followers of Tilajogian for their meals. Without it, Goraknath had no way to summon his people. The next morning, Goraknath discovered the theft. He found Ranjha sitting outside his tent, the conch in his hands. "Give me back my conch," Goraknath demanded. "Without it, my followers cannot be called for meals. They will starve." "Make me one of your own first," Ranjha said. Goraknath sighed. He recognized the fire in Ranjha's eyes, the fire of a man who would do anything to escape his pain. Fighting such fire was useless. "Very well," the old master said. "I will make you a wanderer. But remember my words. Your love is not finished. Fate will bring you back to her."
Ranjha returned the conch and submitted himself to the transformation. Goraknath rubbed sacred ash all over his body, turning his skin gray like a ghost. He shaved Ranjha's beautiful hair, the hair that Heer had loved to run her fingers through. He pierced both of Ranjha's ears with large hoops, the mark of the wandering ascetics. Finally, he placed a begging bowl in Ranjha's hands. "Go," Goraknath said. "Wander the world as a seeker. Chant ancient hymns to ease your pain. Beg for your food. And when fate brings you back to love, do not run from it." And so Ranjha became a wandering ascetic. Dressed in ash, with pierced ears and shaved head, he traveled from village to village, singing songs of longing. He looked nothing like the handsome young man who had stolen Heer's heart. He looked like a ghost, a shadow, a man who had lost everything. But in his heart, a small flame still burned, a flame that whispered Heer's name with every beat. Meanwhile, in Rangpur, Heer was living a nightmare. She refused to accept Saida Kara as her husband. She wouldn't let him near her. She wouldn't eat properly or dress in fine clothes. She spent her days lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, and her nights crying for Ranjha. "There's something wrong with her," the villagers whispered. "Maybe she's possessed by spirits." But there was no spirit inside Heer. There was only love. Love that refused to die. Love that kept her prisoner, even as it kept her alive. The only person who understood was Sekti, Saida Kara's younger sister. Sekti was kind and compassionate, with a gentle soul that could see pain even when others looked away. One night, she came to Heer's room and sat beside her bed. "Tell me," she said softly, "tell me what troubles you so deeply." At first, Heer said nothing, but Sekti was patient. She sat there in silence, holding Heer's hand, offering comfort without words, and slowly, Heer's defenses crumbled. She told Sekti everything, about Ranjha, about their love, about the 12 beautiful years in the forest by the river, about the cruel separation and the forced marriage. By the time she finished, both women were in tears. "I understand," Sekti whispered, "more than you know." "How can you understand?" Heer asked. Sekti looked around to make sure no one was listening. "Because I too have a secret love. His name is Murad. He is a camel driver. My family would never approve. They think he is beneath us." The two women looked at each other, two souls trapped by society's rules.
2 hearts burning for men they could not have. In that moment, they became sisters.
"We must help each other," Seti said. "If there is any way to reunite you with your Ranjha, I will find it." Months passed. Heer grew weaker from grief and lack of food. She was fading away, and everyone could see it. Then one day, a wandering ascetic came to Rangpur. He was young despite his ash-covered appearance, and there was something compelling about him. He went from house to house, begging for alms, singing songs of love and loss. When he knocked on the door of Saida Kara's house, Seti answered. She looked at the ascetic, and something in his eyes made her gasp. Beneath the ash and the shaved head, she saw a handsome man, a man with eyes full of love and pain. "Who are you?" she whispered, suddenly knowing the answer. "I am searching," the wanderer said softly, "for someone I lost long ago." Seti understood at once. She had heard Heer describe Ranjha many times. Those eyes, that voice, this had to be him. She called Heer. And when Heer came to the door and saw the ascetic, she recognized him immediately. The ash could not hide him from her. The shaved head could not disguise him. She would know his soul anywhere.
"Ranjha," she breathed, tears streaming down her face. "You found me." "I will always find you," he said, his voice cracking with emotion. "No matter how far they take you, no matter how many years pass, my soul will always find yours." They embraced right there in the doorway, 2 lovers reunited after an eternity apart. They held each other and wept, years of pain and longing pouring out in that moment. But they knew they couldn't stay like this. They had to escape. Seti helped them plan. She came up with a brilliant scheme. Heer would pretend to be bitten by a snake and needed a healer. The family called for the wandering ascetic, believing he had powers to cure such ailments. Ranjha healed Heer over several days, and during this time they planned their escape. Seti sent a message to her lover Murad, asking him to come with his camel. On a dark night in June, when the moon was hidden by clouds, they made their move. Seti escaped with Murad on his camel, crossing the river to safety. Heer and Ranjha fled toward Jang, hoping to finally be together. But the Kara family discovered the escape the next morning. They sent their men after the lovers.
Heer and Ranjha were caught in the territory of Raja Adli, a powerful local ruler. They were brought before the Raja in chains, accused of being runaways and criminals. The Kara family demanded justice. "This man stole another man's wife," they said. "He must be punished." Raja Adli asked his judge to decide the case according to the law. The judge, influenced by the Kara's wealth and power, ruled against the lovers. "Heer is the lawful wife of Saida Kara," he declared. "She must be returned to him. As for the wanderer, he should be punished for his crime." Ranjha watched helplessly as they began to drag Heer away. She screamed his name, reaching out to him, but strong hands held her back. In that moment of absolute desperation, Ranjha raised his hands to the sky and cried out with all the pain in his soul. "O heavens," he screamed, "you see everything. You know our love is true. If there is any justice in this universe, prove it now. Show these cruel people the truth."
And at that exact moment, a fire erupted in the town. No one knew where it came from. It just appeared, spreading rapidly through the buildings, consuming everything in its path. People screamed and ran, animals stampeded, chaos reigned. Raja Adli was terrified. He believed the wanderer's cry had somehow caused the fire. He had heard of such things, mystic men with the power to call down heaven's wrath. If this fire consumed his kingdom, he would lose everything. "Stop," he commanded his men. "Bring them back. Bring the wanderer and the woman back." Trembling with fear, the Raja reversed the judge's decision. "I was wrong," he admitted. "This love is blessed by fate itself. Heer belongs with Ranjha. Let them go in peace." Finally, after all the pain and separation, Heer and Ranjha were free. They stood together, hand in hand, hardly able to believe it was real. They decided to return to Jang to be properly married. This time they would do everything correctly. There would be a ceremony, there would be celebrations. Their love would be recognized by all. When they reached Jang, something miraculous happened. Heer's parents, seeing their daughter alive and happy for the first time in years, had a change of heart.
"We were wrong," Chuchak admitted, tears in his eyes. "We should never have separated you. We thought we were protecting our honor, but we were only destroying our daughter." "Marry with our blessing," Malki added, embracing Heer. "We want you to be happy." The wedding was planned. This time it would be a real celebration. Heer was measured for new bridal clothes. Invitations were sent out. The whole village began preparing for the most anticipated wedding in memory. Ranjha returned to Takht Hazara to bring his family for the wedding procession. His brothers, hearing of everything that had happened, were filled with remorse for how they had treated him. "Forgive us, brother," the eldest said, falling at Ranjha's feet. "We were cruel to you. We didn't understand." "There is nothing to forgive," Ranjha said. "Everything that happened led me to Heer, and she is worth all the pain in the world." The brothers prepared a grand wedding procession. There would be horses and elephants, musicians and dancers, gifts and gold. It would be a celebration worthy of a prince. Meanwhile, Heer waited in Jang, counting the hours until Ranjha's return. She could hardly believe it. After everything they had been through, they would finally be together. Forever.
But someone else was watching. Someone who had never forgiven Heer. Someone whose bitter heart could not stand to see her happy. Kaido. The same uncle who had exposed their love. The same man who had caused their first separation. He had thought he had won when Heer was married off, but now, seeing that his schemes had failed, his hatred burned brighter than ever. "They think they have won," he muttered to himself in the darkness of his room. "They think love has triumphed, but I will show them. If I cannot have happiness, neither can she." On the day before the wedding, when the entire village was buzzing with excitement, Kaido sneaked into the kitchen where the wedding sweets were being prepared. He found the ladu, the sticky, sweet treats that were Heer's favorite, that would be served at the celebration. With trembling hands, he pulled out a vial of deadly poison. He poured it into the ladu, mixing it in until no trace remained visible. "This is for you, dear niece," he whispered, "a wedding gift from your loving uncle." That evening, someone brought a plate of ladu to Heer's room, the first sweets of the celebration, they said, especially for the bride. Heer, who had barely eaten for years, was finally happy enough to feel hunger. She took a ladu and bit into it, thinking of Ranjha, thinking of the beautiful life that awaited them. She didn't notice anything strange about the taste. Her heart was too full of joy to notice anything at all. By morning, she was dead. When Ranjha arrived with the wedding procession, drums beating and music playing, he found Jang transformed. The colorful decorations had been replaced by white cloths of mourning. The joyful songs had been replaced by weeping and wailing. "What happened?" he asked,
his heart already knowing the terrible answer. Someone approached him, their face streaked with tears. "Heer is gone," they whispered. "She was poisoned." The world stopped. The drums fell silent. The music died. Everything Ranjha had ever hoped for, everything he had ever dreamed of, shattered into a million pieces. He ran. He ran through the streets of Chang, pushing past the mourners, ignoring their cries. He ran faster than he had ever run in his life, his heart pounding, his lungs burning, his soul screaming.
He burst into the house where Heer lay. She was on a bed, dressed in her bridal clothes, the clothes she should have worn to their wedding, the clothes she would now wear to her grave. Her eyes were closed. Her face was peaceful. She looked like she was sleeping, like she would wake up any moment, smile at him, and say it was all a terrible joke. But she would never wake up. She would never smile at him again. Ranjha fell to his knees beside her. "No," he whispered, his voice breaking. "No, no, no. This cannot be. Wake up, Heer. Please wake up. I've come for you. We're going to be married. Please, my love, please open your eyes." But Heer didn't move. She couldn't hear him anymore. Ranjha's tears fell on her face, rolling down her cheeks like the tears she could no longer cry. All those years of struggle, all that pain and separation, and now, when they were finally about to be together. His eyes fell on a plate beside her bed, a plate with remaining laddu, and in that moment he understood. He picked up one of the poisoned sweets. He looked at it for a long moment, then he looked at Heer's peaceful face. "If I cannot live with you," he whispered, "then I will die with you. If we cannot be together in this life, we will be together in the next. No one will separate us again. Not family, not society, not even death." He ate the laddu. Within moments, the poison began its work. Ranjha collapsed beside Heer, his body falling across hers, his hand finding hers and holding it tight. As the poison stopped his heart, a strange peace came over him, because even in death, they were finally together. No one could separate them now. No one could come between their love ever again. They found them like that, Ranjha lying beside Heer, their hands intertwined, peaceful smiles on both their faces, as if they had simply fallen asleep, as if they were having a beautiful dream they never wanted to wake from. They buried Heer and Ranjha side by side in Jang, the same town where they had met, the same town where they had fallen in love, the same town where they had been torn apart. Now it would be their resting place for all eternity. People came from all over Punjab to mourn them. Their love story spread across the land, sung by poets and storytellers, passed from generation to generation. To this day, nearly 500 years later, lovers visit their memorial in Jong. They tie colored threads to the iron gates. They light candles and make wishes. They ask for blessings for their own love stories. Because Heer and Ranjha proved something that the world keeps trying to forget, that true love is real, that it exists beyond the boundaries of class and caste, that it is stronger than family pressure, societal expectations, and even death itself. They did not lose. Yes, they died, but they died together, and in the end, they won something more precious than a long life of compromise and regret. They won eternity. Some people say fairy tales aren't real,
But Heer and Ranjha knew better. They lived one. Not the kind with happy endings and magic spells, but the kind built on sacrifice, devotion, and love that refused to quit, even when the whole world said it should.
The kind that started with their eyes meeting on a boat by the Chenab River and ended with their souls entwined forever. And that, my friends, is the greatest love story Punjab has ever told. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button now. Drop a comment telling us, have you ever loved someone so deeply that you would sacrifice everything for them? Has anyone ever fought for your love against all odds? What would you do if society tried to separate you from your soulmate? Share your thoughts below, because sometimes the best love stories are the ones we live ourselves, not the ones we watch. Thank you for staying with us through Heer and Ranjha's entire journey. We love you all. Until next time, see you in the next story.